Welcome to the Honest Business Podcast, the Honest CEO's Guest Series Special Edition. In this series, we are going to be talking to some incredible female founders about their journey, what really goes on behind the scenes, how much balance they have, what makes their business joyful, and ultimately what keeps them going. So feel free to tune in and we will see you each week. Today on the Honest Business Podcast, I'm joined by Kelly Duckworth, who is the co-founder and CEO of the Care Collective. Kelly started her career at an architectural practice where she did interior design and landscape architecture while studying construction. And she then pivoted into training into musical theatre before stumbling into setting up a home care provider, all by the age of 22. Kelly is passionate, she's bubbly, she is absolutely phenomenal and a business owner that has so much knowledge and wisdom to share, and I'm utterly thrilled that she has agreed to come and speak with us today and talk about what it means to be an honest CEO and what her journey has looked like over the last few years, because she has grown a phenomenal business that hasn't always been easy and isn't easy at all times, and in an industry that is, some would say, quite cutthroat. She has got tons and tons of insight to share with you. So Kelly, welcome to the Honest Business Podcast.
Thank you. Thanks.
How are you?
Yeah, good, thanks.
Good. What is the one thing that you wish all business owners knew?
I think especially for people starting out, I think it's really good to know that where to set your expectations, because I think especially with social media right now, it's easy to see the life of a business owner being very glamorous and you don't really see the work that goes behind it. So especially for newer, younger or aspiring business owners, I'd really hope they actually really pay attention to everything that goes into those glamorous moments, because that's not the day-to-day.
It's not. We're laughing and smiling at each other. Yes, there's quite a gap, isn't there, between reality and then what people see online, especially in the rise of, let's just say, like TikTok and these beautiful curated B-roll aspirational content, should we say, which is fantastic and we need to have, because it gets people wanting to be part of entrepreneurship. But I feel like you are a real good advocate for kind of showing people what is possible. You have built a phenomenal business and have done so at in a rate and a scale that many people will never ever do in their lifetime. But on the other side of that, you've been quite open about that as a challenge, right? And that it isn't what necessarily is betrayed. And I guess maybe you could speak on kind of how you decided upon your business model, because I think that's something people struggle with in terms of they look at what they see online as a certain image, but they don't quite realize what business model type of business are they looking at when it's, you know, when they're looking through someone that they admire, a product business, someone in the fashion industry maybe, compared to an industry that someone else is considering to go in. So how did that all start for you? Like, how did you kind of figure out that that was the industry and that was the business model that you were looking to build?
I'm going to be honest, it was completely by accident. It was completely unintentional. In 2020, my mum, who had been working in care for over 20 years, said that she would like to start her own provider. And I was studying musical theatre at the time, but I was studying from home because of COVID. And the intention was, I'm just going to help you do the paperwork and I'm going to go back to do what I want to do. It just spiraled, I guess, out of control. So we started trading in June 2021. So from November to 2020 to June 2021, it was a lot of setup. And in terms of choosing a business model, we basically just went off her experience and the type of businesses that she's experienced and what she's witnessed, because that's all the information we had to go off. And I'm a big advocate for not pretending you know things that you don't. I'm the first person to say that I have no idea what I'm doing. And I feel like we're all kind of making it up as we go along, because especially with like the times are constantly changing, technology's changing, everything is changing. So we are, even the most experienced people, I feel like, are going to be making it up as they go along, and we can all learn from, everyone can learn from anyone. We kind of started with what we thought a care business was going to look like. And then we have spent the last 4 years making tweaks, I guess. And not only what works best for the industry, because it's really industry dependent, like you said, not just service and product. Our industry is completely different to, like you say, the fashion industry. So completely different. We went from what we thought was going to work to actually, this isn't really working for us. We want to do things in a different way. So yeah, just making little adjustments. I'd love to be able to say that this is a formula that we followed, but it's not. It was just a trial and error, a lot of error, until that's working a bit better. Yeah, that's good. That feels better. We'll do that.
And how did you find that first 12 months? Like that first 12 months of being a business owner, what did that look like for you? How did it feel?
It was really scary because I'd never studied business. I had no business experience. I was going off things that I had learned from previous jobs. So what had I seen from my colleagues? About 4 months into the business, a couple of weeks prior, I saw a business conference in Jersey that was happening. And that was the first year that was happening. And there was all sorts of business, and it was 4 small businesses. And there were people speaking on all different types of sectors, parts of the business. And I thought, thank goodness I need some clarity. I literally felt like a fish out of water. So I kind of went, and a lot of the speakers, one of which was yourself, I just went to and just kind of said, help, I'm struggling. And I think it was hard because I was 22. No one really takes you seriously either. So when you do ask the questions or you try to have a conversation, even if you're right, you get shot down. And if at the beginning, it's also very terrifying because I went from a very junior level role to studying something completely different to then being a business owner, which thankfully I didn't do on my own. It was a family business, but it's still quite terrifying.
Hugely terrifying.
Yeah, it's scary. I'm not gonna lie. It's I'd love to say it was wonderful. Yeah. It was a lot of work, a lot of late nights, a lot of sleepless nights where we stayed up all night in the office and roped in my dad and my husband, who was my boyfriend at the time, and anyone and their dog to help at one point. So
I'll always remember that conversation you had with me, because I remember you came up to me at Greenhouse. We'll do a shout out as well for Greenhouse. The amazing Jackie. And I remember you coming to me, and I remember being amazed by your ability to articulate what it is you wanted. I think you said something to me and I said back to you, what is it you're actually trying to build? And you came back to me with such clarity in that. I don't know whether you felt that in the moment.
I did not. I'm glad it came across that way because I did not feel that way.
No, it was. I remember leaving and going back to my hotel room, and I just remember you sticking in my brain in the sense of, that was a really cool person. What a woman. And she is so driven and is going to make something happen here. And I remember you said to me, you were like, look, this is what I want. I don't care what I have to do to get there. I will get there. Help. And we had this conversation, and I just remember being like, this is going to work. Like, you are just going to fly, because you were so like, I remember you said to me, you're like, I'm just a sponge. I'm soaking all of this up in the day that we were at the conference. And you just had, because you'd already had a good bit of traction at that time, didn't you? Like, the business was still doing something to some degree.
Yeah, I mean, it was fairly new, but it was growing.
You had clients though, which I think people like watching this might be like, you know, the timeline you're talking about, they might think, oh, you know, like you're still in idea concept, you're still testing things. Like, you came and you still in a short period of time had made a lot happen. And then the sort of 6 months, 12 months that followed that, or sort of your first 18 months in business, I mean, it was phenomenal what you then went on to do. And the, you know, people talk about numbers, like the growth trajectory of what the business went through was phenomenal. But that was all down to you. And if you don't mind, I'd love to touch on that whole ageism piece and that piece around this banging your head against a wall, essentially, at times. How have you managed that? Because that hasn't gone away, has it, particularly? Like, it's followed you.
Yeah, I have a baby face, which I'll be grateful for when I'm older. But the last few years, it's been quite frustrating. And also living on the island that we do, it's quite difficult being the background that I am, because my family's Portuguese, and where I live, people are not kind to people from other places, especially the Portuguese community. So there's two things kind of against me, and
which in 2025 is the most ridiculous.
Oh, it is.
But I guess we could spend a whole podcast. Like, it is utterly disgusting, ridiculous, horrendous. What you have to deal with in that sense of things.
Well, it's difficult because it's not something that you can necessarily quantify. So even if you want to, there has been a couple of cases where I have brought it up. I have expressed my dissatisfaction with the way that we're being treated for one reason or another. But then people want you to quantify it, and you can't quantify body language and tone and language necessarily, because the language itself it might not be rude, but it all combined, it is really like some, like, I'm not gonna lie, there's a lot of days I have a little cry. Not just for that, just in general. I think it's good to just let it out, not let it fester.
But daily gaslighting that you constantly have to go through on top of being a CEO, being a managing director, running the business, it's like another layer for you, isn't it? That you've almost got to just agree to participate in.
Yeah, I guess it's not only myself, but I get really infuriated when I see, so like I work with my mum, when I see people mistreat my mum as well for whatever reason. And again, in a similar way, it really infuriates me. And it can be hard to detach that emotion from the business. So there have been times where there's almost been like a reluctancy or an anxiety around work, purely for the fact that your body just can't take. Everyone has a limit. There's a point. There's so much people can take. And if every time I see my email app icon, I just get a rush of anxiety, then I'm not going to want to open it. And then I'm going to avoid it. And then I don't want to do the things that I want to do. But it ends up spiraling. So that can be quite difficult to manage whilst having to just carry on. Yeah. It's hard to brush off because it's a personal thing. It's not a business thing.
Yes, for sure. So what support systems do you have in like your business and your life that really allow you to have grown and to have scaled like you have, whilst you're dealing with all of, everyday stresses and the other things you're dealing with? Like, how do you have systems in place? Have you found tools that have really supported you?
I think the biggest thing, firstly, is I'm quite lucky to have a good support system in terms of family. Like, I'm very close to my parents, not only through work, but we're very close. I have my husband who's really understanding and supportive. So I think that's really fundamental to begin with. I also my outlet has always been through performing arts and dancing. And at school, the more stressed I got, the more I danced, the more I sang, the more I performed. It drove my teachers insane to a point that my head of sixth form called in my parents to say that you need to take her out of dance. And my parents said, absolutely not. It is the only thing keeping her going. So why would I do that? I think at one point I only focused on work and I neglected anything that kind of fed my soul. So incorporating things that feed my soul, like the dance, like the music, like spending time with family, friends, even just some alone time, just going for a walk, I think has been really, really key in keeping me going, I think.
Yeah. And so because I feel like that's a prioritization, isn't it? Like, it's an active choice. It would be easy for you to let work take up so much of your time, given how demanding the business has been. You obviously said, like, you've stepped in and you've had an intervention almost with yourself over the years of said, no, we've got to prioritize both of those things. What does being a CEO mean to you? And like, has that changed over time? Is that continuing to change for you?
I think it's always changing and evolving as I'm learning more and more and I'm gaining more experience. It's also going to change a lot when the baby comes, which is not long.
So excited.
I don't know. I think when you think of a CEO, I just thought like a big corporate company, like a 40 to 50-year-old man in a suit. Everyone, like, they walk in the room and the fear of God is put into everyone, you know. It's like that's what you see. Like that's the kind of picture I had of a CEO. Now it's very much changed. For me, a CEO is just someone who has eyes on everything and hands in every bucket. You create more hands as buckets appear. Yeah, I don't know. It's a hard thing to describe. I think, and if you are in a position that the two of us are, then you understand it a little bit more. But I've tried describing it to my friends, and it really can't. I can't articulate it. I feel like I can't articulate it correctly.
Yeah.
Because it is hard to understand.
I mean, I guess this is sort of like why we're doing this podcast, Ethan, to show different versions of what being a CEO can look like and mean, because it is different for everyone. And I think you've raised a great point there about it's almost like not a feeling, it's not a being or a state. It's like whatever someone steps into it to be. And I think it changes for everybody along their journey. When you think about your journey so far, what has surprised you the most about building a 7-figure business? Like, what has completely sort of just blown out the water for you, or you just thought, you know what, that really surprised me about this journey, or yourself maybe?
The fact that I could do it, that's a surprise. You think of people that are building businesses with that kind of value would have a lot of financial backing, and I come from a very hardworking family. So it's not, and they've had businesses. My parents have had businesses. They've had various businesses. My dad's had a real estate agent, a restaurant. My mum had a hairdressing business and beauty business. And, but you don't expect it to get to that much. Like that number is like, I remember the first like 7 months that we were in business, we hit 100K. I think it was like 101K. And I was like, I've never, like, I couldn't comprehend that much. Like, I hadn't seen that money, don't get me wrong.
Money,
I'm just seeing the revenue. Yeah. But it's such a lot of money. Like, £100 is a lot of money.
Yeah.
£100,000 is a lot of money. You know, people say, like, if you want it, like, if you want something, work hard. And if you're scared, do it anyway. But, like, I don't know. You don't really think, I didn't think that I could do that much that quickly. I guess it depends on the type of business, because the type of business that I run means that we can make that much money.
Yes.
In the first 7 months of business. But that's not realistic for everyone.
No.
And it's not to say that anyone should compare their revenue to mine. But I didn't think that I could do that. It's like the numbers for last year as well. I looked at it at the end of the year and I was like, oh, okay. Okay. Well, that's nice.
Yeah. And sorry, can we just plug in between
that
point? So just so people are aware, yes, you did say like that 100 grand in that 7 months. The 12 months that then followed from that 7 months, you did an exponential growth. You did about 500% growth, didn't you? It was like a crazy amount of revenue. And I think that's the bit that is phenomenal about you, of that, you know, I get to see the insides of a lot of people's businesses, and that's such a privilege and such an honor. And everybody, as we've mentioned, is building their own thing, understand their business model, understand what you're doing this for. Some people don't need to make X, Y, Z amount of money. But to do, say, a 500% growth, or to do kind of what you've sustained as well, because it's not just oh yeah, we've done that, but then the next year we didn't make any money. Like, that wasn't the case for you. I think you always do yourself a disservice in terms of maybe not acknowledging how much of a phenomenal achievement it was. Bearing in mind you're bootstrapped 100%, aren't you? You have no external funding, and you really did that from the ground up, of kind of adding consistently each month that got you to the revenue that you ended up with. How do you feel that was possible? Because as you said, like, you didn't think that was possible at the start, presumably. So you didn't really, I don't think you set out, did you, to necessarily make those figures, because it wasn't in your head. What was in your head in terms of that vision? Like, did you always have kind of a vision or a picture, or what kept you going to know that actually there is something that I'm trying to work towards?
I guess I'll start with the vision. Our only vision was just to create a business that would generate enough for us to be able to go to the supermarket and not have to put the strawberries back because we don't have enough money in the account. Like, that was the goal. Quite a simple goal, but really impactful, I think, on your daily life. And like, oh, I need to go to Boots, I've run out of shampoo, and oh, can I make it work with a bit more water or something? Like, you know, like that was the vision. It was just to make enough. Well, not the vision for the business, but financially, the vision was to just make enough to be okay. I feel like what kept us on track to be able to make that much is the strategy behind all of the work that we've done, which you very, very did very, very well in contributing to. Kept me sane, dealt with a lot of tears and stuff. But yeah, without having a clear plan and timeline of the way you want things to go, I mean, be ready to let go of that timeline. But if needs be, or speed it up and adjust and move things, but without a vision of, okay, this is where we're going, this is where we are, this is what we need, these are the steps we need to take to get to there. I think we wouldn't have got there. And it would have been very difficult to stay focused, because when all the noise is coming in, you focus on the noise, and then the kind of vision and those steps get lost. And then you get more frustrated because then you see the end goal that you want to get to, but you lose track on how to get there. So I think that plan has really been key in keeping us focused and recentering us when things get chaotic.
And I think people don't understand, and why would anybody understand, how loud that external noise is when you're going at the rate you're going at, isn't it? In terms of just the day-to-day, as you're saying, the firefighting, the issues, the team, the this, the that. It's like that noise becomes all you can hear sometimes. And I think for people watching, if someone's inspired right now going, oh my goodness, this is so cool, what an amazing woman, this is fantastic to see this being played out. I think what you said there about this coming back to your strategy and knowing your plan, for reference for people watching, like, you are phenomenal at doing that, aren't you? Like, you made a commitment to do that, and, you know, on a weekly basis, a daily basis, a monthly basis, various different points in different formats, but you were always able to step back into that CEO seat and step back into that working on the business rather than being in it. And I know at times that's been excruciatingly painful, hasn't it? Yeah. And there's been, you know, we're not sat here saying that every time it's like, woohoo, we can't wait to do that. But yeah. I agree with you in the sense of the ability you've had and that kind of discipline and that commitment you've had to always believing that there's something else ahead and that you're able to move. And I think you take a lot of responsibility, don't you, for if this is going to happen, it's going to be down to me. You don't sort of let everything just play out and hope, because I think some people do when they want the success that you've created, but I don't think people are aware of how kind of precision led that is, or how conscious those decisions are. I mean, as you mentioned, we can't control everything in the business world. There's loads that you just do not have control over, but you're very good at not bowing out when it gets hard and not kind of going, oh, I'm not going to look at that because actually right now I haven't got time to deal with it. You're good at saying, right, well, I might only have 20 minutes to look at the strategy, but I'm going to look at it. Or I might have half a day, great. But you're very consistent in that ability to switch as a leader and as a CEO, which I think is one of your superpowers in terms of like an executor and also being able to zoom out.
I guess that's both a good thing and a bad thing, because there have been times where something's been really important, and if I get this done, then it will make my life so much easier. But I just can't get it done because I have that to do. So I have learned more to delegate tasks, but also when things do get really hard and you do have all that external noise and you have things that are really getting you down, if you do manage to get like, okay, like that part of the system is done, no one will ever appreciate, like they won't see this, they won't know that I've done this, but it's a really key thing, so that the next thing I do, it's just about building a lot of the focus in the last year and a half has been building systems within the business that are scalable, sustainable, and more secure. So although not many other people will see it, it's like a little satisfaction for yourself and a little reward for yourself to like, oh, okay, like it is 1:45 a.m, but that's done. So the rest of the day was a mess, but I got that done. So now I can focus on the next thing, because it can also be really just draining seeing the same thing on your to-do list, and you have the meaning to do it. But this is what I mean, like it's not glamorous sometimes. Like sometimes it means having a sandwich at 11 p.m. in the office because you just need to get it done. But having that strategy can really help keep you focused and find little nuggets of, okay, like it's not everything isn't crumbling, it's fine.
Yeah. And I think this is we've had this conversation before in the past numerous times about understanding what you're building. I think that's an important piece for people watching, isn't it? Of like, or listening, you need to know what you're building, because that will determine what your boundaries are, what you're sacrificing and what you're not, what you're saying yes to and what you're not. And so if you're watching this and you are thinking, this sounds exciting, because some people are going to be like, this sounds quite fun, I quite like the challenge of this, I'm quite fired up by it. Other people are going to be like, whoa, no, thank you, I don't want to do that. And that's fine, because you can find a business model that works for you in whatever sense it is. But I think the biggest mistake people make is if they don't know what they're going into and they have no understanding of what they're actually trying to build, it's then just chaos, because you've got no sense check or kind of reference point as to what your sort of your boundaries, your kind of limitations of where you say, no, I'm drawing the line here, or this is a yes or no. And I guess for you, you're in a business model that is scalable and has huge potential, and you need those systems, whereas someone else can potentially do things in a completely different way and work, 2 days a week, and they have their system. But how do you how do you look at boundaries? Like, how does that play a part in your business life, and have they changed as you've grown?
Oh yeah, they've massively changed since we started the business. Like I said earlier, we had no idea what we were building, really, and how that was actually going to end up looking for us, the way we ran it, and how it looked for us within our daily lives. And you've seen many a time that I've been tremendously burnt out, and I think a lot of people know that if you don't stop and put things in place, then your body will make you stop at some point. If not physically, mentally, you can't buy your health. And not that I didn't know it before, but you learn it the hard way. So I've definitely become more strict with boundaries, and especially with the little one on the way, I'm getting even more strict with boundaries, and I'm being very clear on, I was a bit worried about ruffling feathers and upsetting people. And now I'm becoming more and more about, no, we need to protect ourselves too. Because we've had, in the last 4 years, yeah, we've done great. My mum hasn't had a day off. She's been disturbed at least once a day. Even on my wedding day, she was disturbed at least once, if not more than that, because she won't tell me because she didn't want to worry me. But it's incredibly exhausting, and I've seen it take a real toll on her, like just her in general, which is not great. And I really don't like to see it. So we pivoted the way that we were doing things, and we've implemented things that allow for us to set more strict boundaries, which is really important. And I think you can pivot. If you can try something, it doesn't work, or it doesn't pan out like you think, you can pivot. It's not easy to pivot, because then people expect, for example, if people have access to you 24/7, 7 days a week, they're going to get upset when they suddenly don't. So it can be easier to come in with the boundaries first. But if it doesn't work, that's fine. You're not stuck there. You can pivot. Just don't expect it to be, just expect a couple of bumps. But it is, my mindset is changing on it, and I think it's going to continue to change.
Yeah. And I am so happy that you're open to being so honest, because this is what people need to hear, right? Like, yeah. And we're not saying that has to be forever. We're not saying that's the case for everybody, but I don't think there's enough conversation of people being open enough and saying, look, yes, we have achieved X, Y, and Z thing, but this is also the other side of it. And thank you for being honest, because I know that that's going to help somebody, at least one person, maybe, tons of people who are going, oh my goodness, like, we're not alone, or we've not messed up. Because I think something that people maybe don't realize is they think, if that's the case, if I haven't managed to crack the work-life balance thing, or if I haven't managed to, there's a part of the business where it feels out of alignment and it's not feeling right. I'm a big advocate for saying that doesn't mean you've got a rubbish business and it doesn't mean your business is failing. And I think people want to look at business, especially, very black and white. They want to look at it, it's going well or it's not going well, or it's like, yes, this is amazing and this is such a role model for people, or, oh, this person's really, not right. And actually, I disagree with that, because I think if you pull the curtain on businesses that are actively moving forward at pace, which you are, and you are in a business where you're constantly moving and there's lots of moving parts, it's very hard for you to create that, if you want to call it idyllic, peaceful state 24/7. Like, you are sort of used to, you've almost created a new normal, haven't you, where you've now got your nervous system to be okay with some level of stress. Because I think that's another thing for people to understand, is like, when you're picking what business model you're going for, or I think a lot of people are in 2025, especially, are in this moment of like pivoting, as you mentioned, and changing their business model. You've got to kind of get used to, do you want any stress in your life or do you not? And there's certain business models where you're going to lean towards if you do or you don't. But you've been very good at, and your mum, of course, as well, it's sort of creating new normals and creating kind of what is acceptable and what isn't. And I feel like that you've been on a massive journey with over the last 12 months that you're continuing to get better and better at, right?
I think we've dealt with different types of stress, but I've always just been attracted to chaos. I'm not gonna lie. I've when I was at school, I mean, what kind of person chooses to do 7 ASs and do 20 hours of dancing a week and singing and shows and volunteering and teaching music theory and all kinds of, like, bonkers, really, looking back at it. For me, a peaceful state, I get bored. It just isn't sustainable for me personally. Like,
this is what people need to know, isn't it? Like,
yeah,
you need to go with use your personality, use what you've naturally got to aid your business, because I just don't think you working 2 days a week would really.
I mean, I wouldn't say no. I'd find other things to fill my time, but I mean, like, I was chatting to one of my mates and he was saying, I was asking how life is. He was like, yeah, it's just really like peaceful and steady. And I was like, wow, I couldn't do that. Like, that's great. But like, part of me was like, what does that feel like? And just because I don't know, I've always been like to keep busy. And if I have been in a state where I'm not doing much, I do create more things to do. Like, as we were starting the business, I also started an interior design diploma, which is currently on the back burner, but I will get to it eventually. But on the work-life balance thing, I think something that was really useful that I heard was that a work-life balance just isn't a thing. Like, it just isn't real. There's always going to be a sacrifice, and you make that choice at the time. Sometimes you have to prioritize family, and yourself and your personal life. Sometimes things happen, you have to prioritize the business. And if you have a really supportive system of people around you, then they'll understand and they'll give you the space and support. They won't think that you're neglecting them and things. So you don't have to worry so much about, are they going to be worried or like offended and things, because sometimes you do have to explain it and just be a little bit more black and white about it. Like, this is going on. This is how I feel. There's nothing I can do about it. I just appreciate your support right now. And sometimes those are not nice conversations to have. I had a few months that I didn't speak to any of my friends because I just had to get the work done, because I just had to. I didn't get a choice. I didn't have we didn't really have anyone to help us. We didn't have more resources. So we just had to get it done. of course, they were upset, but they didn't understand. And it was when I communicated that with them that they were like, oh, okay, that's fine.
Yeah.
But that's hard. Also, if you have to kind of neglect your work a little bit for your family or personal life, that can be quite hard too, because it can be quite a guilty feeling. Or if you're not well and you need to step back, or, I mean, this year has been quite difficult because I've had to give myself more grace, and maybe I need a nap and I can't have that meeting in the afternoon and things, you know, so you need to give yourself grace. I think it's about just, giving yourself grace. Like, you can't be everywhere, like everything for everyone all the time.
Mm-hmm.
You need to shift your weight as needed, kind of like on a wave. The work-life balance thing. I think that's such an idyllic standard that is really quite, it can make you feel really down if you don't feel like you have like, okay, I am 50-50.
Yeah, and it's not 50-50 for most people. No. And I think this work-life integration that a lot of us are talking about now is so key, because I think that is the actual solution, if we want a solution to it. I think the more that we all get on board with this life design and understanding what you want your life to look like, and deciding what your parameters are and what your priorities are, and what is a hard no and what's a hard yes, and building these beautiful lives that we all live. But again, it's a choice, and we make this decision of, you know, in this season of 2 weeks or 10 weeks or however long we're doing this, but actually it might change, and this season we're going into that, and seeing that as a fluid, movable thing, I think is so much more practical for people than us all painting some picture that everything's going to consistently be like that for certain long periods of time. I think that's what scares people when they think, oh, I can't do something for like 2 years at the same pace. And it's like, okay, well, we're not suggesting you need to do that. Like, it's about this ebb and this flow. I know you work with your mum, and it's very much a family business. What tips have you got? Have you got advice for people? What is your, like, 101 on family business?
I get asked this a lot. I think, firstly, it depends what kind of people you are and your relationship. I think ultimately you need to give each other grace, because I've seen it in work as well as through the work, as well as just personally as well. You tend to throw more on the people that you love because it's a safe space. But you do also, it's really hard not to blur the line. Like, we do try to keep home at home, work at work. It doesn't always work. I'm not going to lie, but it's, you need to give yourself grace like you would a colleague that you don't feel so safe with. But then on the other hand, the fact that we are a family business means that we're not afraid to be so honest with each other, and then worry that they're going to run away or disagree. Like, if we ever have a disagreement, we tend to just go our separate ways, sleep on it, next day, kind of, okay, talk calmly, and okay, let's kind of hash this out. And this is the issue. Realistically, what kind of solution can we come up with? Because, you just need to give yourself grace.
For sure. And I know that it's not just you and your mum. You obviously have an amazing team, and you have hired a lot of people. You've had to fire people. You've had a whole experience of that. What is your approach to, because I would say you've gotten very good, haven't you, at hiring? And you,
I've learnt lessons. Mm-hmm. Again, a lot of trial and error, probably more error over the last few years. Well, I mean, the fact that me and my mum co-founded the business. My dad is a jack of all trades within the business. My husband also gets roped in as well. But on the hiring perspective, I think, again, because I was 22, I'm 26 now, so it's not that big of a difference. But because I was younger, I was not dependent on other people's experience, but I was kind of was. I kind of trust that you have the experience to do the job that you're telling me that you can do. And we've learned many a way.
And can
work.
I like butt in there and be like, give us more on that? Because I think that is what's terrifying for people. Like, people are sat there, maybe they're making their first hire or their first 5 or 10. And it's like, you're often hiring people to do something that maybe you can't do, or maybe you're, trying to hire people that are way smarter than you at something. And so there's this whole, because you hear that all the time. You hear people say, hire people who are smarter than you, which I really agree with. But I do think there's also a flip side of that that's terrifying for people when you're trying to be like, okay, what do I do? What happens now? That there's a huge like trust and power dynamic goes on there, isn't there?
Yeah. I mean, we've had people have access to documents and shred them whilst we're not there. We've had people create documents and sign them when they had no authority to do so. We've had people destroy relationships with our biggest clients, our most reliable staff. And, it's a lot of, and that happened very quickly. And we were there, we were around. We couldn't always be there because, like you said, you hire someone to do a job either you don't have time to do or you can't do yourself. So you do have to put your trust in someone. And it's really, really depleting when you've worked so hard for something, then you bring someone into your business and it does feel like it just all falls apart and it's out of your control. Again, it depends on the kind of business and the role that you're choosing. For us, our main contention with hiring has been with a senior level role as a registered manager who is going to oversee the day-to-day running of the business, which is a major, major role. And the most recent hire that we've done, because we've gone through a few, we brought someone in that had stepped up into a more senior role, but hadn't yet been in that role. So it was open to learning. They didn't have a set way of doing things, which I quite like, because we can all learn from each other. I'm open to hearing what she has to say and what she's open to seeing how we do things as well. But we brought her in at a lower level first. So she came in as a senior healthcare assistant role, which a lot of people in that role wouldn't do because they'd see it as beneath them. What's been great is that we've had quite a few months of experiencing her work, and we've seen her build relationships with clients and her colleagues, and we'd slowly started to introduce the idea of assisting with smaller tasks that she might take on in a higher level role. And after we saw that her commitment to her job, despite it being a lower level, then we had a conversation with her about stepping up and promoting her into that role. It depends on what kind of business you run and what role it is. I personally have found is if you can find a way to kind of trial it.
We love a trial, don't we?
Shape or form.
We love a trial, an experiment, a test, somehow like a middle ground type of situation. We business owners tend to find that it works so well.
Yeah.
Well,
also just making more use of a probation period for what it is. You can fail a probation if it starts to go majorly sideways and there's no remedy for it. Which I think can be quite frightening again to implement, because that's not a nice conversation to have. It can be quite confronting.
I think that is the thing that stops so many people bringing any middle management into their business. So I think people hire middle management far too late into their journey. They're often absolutely exhausted, whoever's running the business. And we've got this issue of, maybe you do have some kind of senior team-ish maybe, but you've got the rest of the team. But this middle piece is this piece that a lot of people have got to get in place in order to then do this next growth piece. And people are terrified. And people often will say to me, what happens if X, Y, Z? What happens if that? And all the things that you're talking about. And I think you are a great example of saying, yes, it is scary. And yes, you might not get it bang on 100% of the time. But if you don't do that, if you don't attempt to bring in any middle management, there's no real conversation in talking about scale, which everyone wants to have a conversation about, but often it's impossible for them to do. If a co-founder or a founder of business is, you know, also the CEO and is also in the weeds of it, it's like you've got to bring in that additional support for you and for the other members of your team.
Because if you're really burnt out and on the floor level tired, you're also not going to be able to make the best choices. Which I think we got to a point because we just didn't have the resources to bring in someone of that level. But we decided, actually, no, we're just going to do it anyway. And we're going to find a way to make it work. You get to that point and you just need someone, you need them now because you're on the floor. And that can be quite detrimental. It's not that you mean to, it's not that you have poor judgment. It's at the time you see a shiny thing that this is my solution, this is my way out, I can sleep again. And then it all goes, it all breaks down, it gets even worse, and then it's really depleting. But whether it's through like a 0-hour contract or really sticking to the probation period if they're like full-time employed, or freelance contracts, or just to try people out any way that you can. I think it's good to let people show you, like, again, another thing I've heard is if people show you who you are, believe them. So let them show you who they are, and then because some people speak really well. Some people really crumble under an interview experience or when you meet them, and they can't show off what they actually can do. So kind of go by a vibe, trust your gut, and then let them show you who they are and believe it the first time you see it.
Yeah.
I think because sometimes, again, you can kind of gaslight yourself out of it. Like, oh no, it was just this one thing, or oh no, that was particularly stressful and things. But if you're in a whatever way you can, it's good to kind of be able to see it first.
Yeah. And I think linking to that, something that's quite tricky for a lot of people is most business owners are quite into this idea of promoting within, and we all are, you know. I think that's it's just such a good use of business resource. But often when you're adding in that middle management layer, for not all businesses, but for a lot of small businesses, it doesn't normally work to that bit for it's quite frustrating for people. But often it's like you do need that external input. Often this is a role where someone's like, we need to get someone who isn't already in the business. And I think that really adds to what you're saying about it then becomes this risk and this gamble, or it feels like that for people, doesn't it? Because you're sort of like, well, we can't just take this person from here or this person who does that. It's like, no, we need a different skill set, or we need something that we don't already have access to. And I think that causes quite a lot of sort of angst and worry. When it comes to resilience, you are phenomenally resilient. What do you wish more young leaders, business leaders, entrepreneurs, female founders knew about resilience?
Firstly, thanks. Secondly, I think we need to normalize the fact that sometimes it's a bit rubbish and you're not a failure because things aren't going the way you wanted to. And there's a lot of things that I've kind of picked up as I've gone, like, if you want to be good at something, you need to be prepared to be rubbish at it first. Do not expect to be great at something. And if you have that, I think if I have that expectation of I'm going to suck at this first, but I'm going to work out a way to get better, then it doesn't feel so bad. And then it stops you thinking, oh, well, I'll just leave that then because I can't do it. And I can talk myself out of a lot of things. So when I came up to speak to you at the business conference, I was thinking, oh no, I don't want to bother her. Oh no, what do I even say? Like, she wouldn't even want to talk to me. Probably not. And it's easy to talk yourself out of something. And then I think every time I wanted to go speak to someone, I just thought, be afraid and do it anyway, be afraid and do it anyway. And then just like go and do it. So I think there's a lot of that. And don't get me wrong, like I've but I've spoken quite honestly about the things that don't go quite right. There were great moments as well. But I think going in with an expectation of things aren't going to always be shiny can help you give yourself a little bit more grace. I think.
Beautiful. I agree so much. Tell us about some of your favorite moments. Like, tell us about some of the joy, because you have had some joy. Like, what has the business allowed you to do, or what have you got a moment that you just have in your head that you really enjoy about the business?
For me, the flexibility of the way that I work has been really, really great for me, because only last year I was diagnosed with ADHD, and thinking back to it, like, how did I survive a 8:30 till 5 job? Like, it just, of course I wasn't going to be performing the way I could have. My brain doesn't work. Like, I physically do not function before 9 or 10 a.m. So the flexibility that I've been able to have is great. It can also blur lines, though, which meant I've done a lot of late nights. But the ability to fly over to come to London for 2 days and have a bit of a wander, and we'll sit down and I'll check my emails and respond to something. But then I can have another bit of a wander, and I can bring my husband with me, and we can have this chat, and then I can just have a bit of a wander again, and then I can fly home. And the ability to be more flexible has been great, especially this year, because it's being pregnant. I cannot imagine having to sit in an office and be there that time and be expected to focus. And I don't know, I could never go back to whatever. Even if things were to go completely awry tomorrow, I'd have to find something else to do, because I couldn't go back to an office and work under that constraint. I'd have to do like a virtual anything. Like, I'd have to find a way that I could work flexibly, because it just doesn't work for me. Again, some people it works beautifully for, and that's great. And that's how they kind of build their days in their business, no matter what position they're in. It just doesn't work for me.
Yeah.
So I think the flexibility has been the biggest thing for me.
I love that. I remember when you were talking there, something came into my head of a memory you told me once that really does stick out to me about like a joyous moment you had when you were talking. It came back to me. I don't know if you can remember. I don't know what year this was, but I remember you came on a call. I don't know whether you had just been or whether it was like at the weekend you'd done it. And I remember you came in and told me, and you were like, I have just spent an extortionate amount of money on Christmas decorations. Can you remember when you bought your flat, hadn't you?
Yeah.
And you went and decked it out in Christmas. And I never forget, you were like, I've always wanted to go to this place. I always wanted to buy all these decorations. And you were like, I've done it. And I was like, oh, wow, this is amazing.
Well, we'd always go to the garden centre. But for me, it was for more than that, though. It was at the garden centre. My dad had seen this like train. And it had, I think it has 3 carriages. And like my dad had looked at it every year, and he's like, I love it. I want it, but I can't afford it. And then there was that one year we went, and my dad looked at it, and my mum just said, pick it up and let's take it to the till. And like my heart burst. And my mum said, I wasn't there, but my mum said that it was like seeing a child just walking to the till with the toy that they wanted for ages. And it's not a material thing. It's just it's the ability to do it without so much of a constraint. Because year after year after year, like you work so hard, and then if you still feel constrained, it's just really mentally quite draining. And like, oh, I wish I could. And then you see someone else doing it, and you're like, oh, that'd be really nice. It's like the strawberries at M&S.
Yeah.
It's not necessarily like not just strawberries, but like having to put things back and like, oh, I've got this amount, and so I have to put something back, and you know, like it just sucks. So it is just nice to have a bit more freedom.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was really cute. Like his little face just is ingrained in my brain. It just
sticks in my head for some reason. That is just a moment, like a really key moment of it's just beautiful. It's
little things. It's not even the fact that I was able to buy my own flat. I didn't think I was going to own property, not in Jersey. And not that I own a massive house, I own an apartment, but it just wasn't even on my radar. And it's just the like freedom, I think, that the business has given us is a little bit more freedom to just, and a little bit less worry, because that worry weighs so heavy on you, and it's just a huge relief. And it's just, yeah, like I said, just seeing my dad's little face, like, it just fills me with joy. And my mum going behind him, like, yay.
Oh.
But yeah, like it's little moments like that. It's not a big thing. It's not I love my business because I was able to do these massive things. No, it's the little day-to-day things. It's not the one-off events. It's the things that affect you every single day.
When it comes to ADHD, have you found anything that has really worked for you? Have you had anything where, I imagine, you've investigated it more and you've probably had a lot of like, oh my goodness, makes sense, or, had some relief in places, I imagine. But like, have you found any kind of new normals or tools or things that are helping you?
Well, because of resources in Jersey, and the fact that I'm pregnant, I'm not able to take medication because I'm just not able to access it in Jersey. Even the diagnosis, I had to go back to Madeira, which is where my parents are from, to see a therapist to get diagnosed. Another thing I'd say is anyone running their own business has to have therapy. It is just, you need a safe space to vent. You just do. And I think my therapist has been really great in giving me little tools in ways that I can cope a little bit better. She's also been very good and relentless in making sure that I give myself grace. This is not your fault. This is not your failure. This is just the way that you function. If you just go take a break for 20 minutes, you'll save yourself 5 hours of staring at your screen and not being able to do anything and making yourself more frustrated. Sometimes it just takes, even go have a nap for an hour and you'll be more productive in the 2 hours that you work afterwards, rather than sitting there that 5 hours and all you're doing is getting yourself frustrated and then you can't do anything. And then the next day you're going in anxious and then it just spirals out of control. So for me, therapy has been a really, really good tool.
Amazing. Yeah, we're such advocates, aren't we? Therapy, cleaners, like, get some kind of support in all areas.
Something,
yeah, get something. And when it comes to becoming a mum, which is imminent, it's happening.
Mm-hmm.
What does that mean for the business? How are you preparing? Are you excited? Is this a new era for you? Like, tell us about being a mum and a CEO.
Yeah, well, I can't tell you about being a mum because I'm not there yet, but I mean, she's already putting the fear of God in me. Like the other day, she wasn't moving very much, and you have to just drop everything and go. But in terms of the business, I think it's made me be a lot more strict with my boundaries and think we've really made sure that the middle management that we've talked about is solid and in place, and the systems are solid and in place. I mean, there's still some reviewing to do and some tweaking to do, but also with I will no longer be available from, like, we're going through this transition period. This is who's going to be available. This is how you're going to contact them. These numbers will no longer be available, so please do not try to contact us because you will not be answered, and not feeling bad about it. So I think it's accelerated that shift that I've been trying to work on for the last 4 to 5 years that I might have not been able or wanting to do it so much. Or I've been able to just get away with it. But now it's like, okay, I have a deadline. No, this is...
that urgency's really helped you almost, hasn't it? Like, it's really helped things. I think it's sped up the decision making in the sense of it's become less about you and it's almost about her in some respect. Like, you're sort of like, it's easier to advocate for her than it is sometimes for ourselves, which I think makes sense. And in terms, on that note, what do you hope that being a business leader and an entrepreneur and a business owner, what do you hope that will show your daughter? Have you thought about that?
I hope that it will show her that she can have the confidence to do what she wants, because it's not an easy thing to do. And I think it's easy to see. I had a lot of friends that had very successful parents, and they didn't see the hard work behind it. So one of my friends was like, oh yeah, I'm just going to go study law and I'm just going to just make hundreds of thousands of pounds a year because that's what my dad did. And if you can, great. Like with minimal work, like you do you. Like I am happy for you. But I want her to an extent to see the work that's going into it. And like I saw my parents work hard so that I learned that work ethic, so that, because that's something that you can take into life across the board and whatever you want to do. She doesn't need to be a business owner. She doesn't need to be anything, but she does need to work hard if she wants to succeed at anything, because it's not going to just fall in your lap. And if it does, what comes easily goes easily as well. So I want her to learn to work hard and to appreciate things as well. Because like I said, the little moments that really, really are of the most value, it can quite easily be dismissed or missed if you don't see it. So I just want her, I don't need her to see me having a breakdown, but I just want her to be able to appreciate things and to work hard. That's all. I think that's it.
What a note to finish on. I love that. That is fabulous. And you are just going to be the most amazing mum.
Oh,
and I can't wait for this next. It's like a new season for the business, isn't it? Like a new iteration. It's beautiful. I'm so excited for you.
Thank you.
Can we finish on some quick fire questions?
Yeah.
Is that okay?
Yeah.
Okay. So when do you feel on fire in the business? Like when do you feel like the best when it comes to your business?
When we get feedback from clients about the difference that it's making in their lives, it makes all the hard work worth it. Or people, some of our staff saying like, I love my job. I love the way that I'm able to live my life around it. And we've had clients that have been told, oh, this is going to take at least 12 weeks to recover. And then 2.5 weeks later, they're like, I'm good. I don't need you anymore. So that really fills my cup.
That's fab. Another question I've got that I think is interesting is, if you had 2 hours extra a week that I could just gift you, what would you use that?
Currently, I'd rest. I think rest is so important, though, and it's so underestimated.
Good. Okay. We love that. We love rest. We're all for it, aren't we? All different types of rest. We're like, yes.
Depending on the ebbs and flows. If I need to use that 2 hours to do extra work, I will. Otherwise, rest. Yeah. It's important.
And do you have a resource or a person that has shifted or impacted how you lead? Have you is there anything or anyone who has just really like influenced your journey as a business owner?
I think I've learned a lot from I've tried to take something from every business owner that I've come across and I've talked to. And it's not that we're sitting here chatting, but I like the way that you're very straightforward, and you're very, how do I describe it?
You can be brutal and harsh. That's fine.
No. It's you're not afraid to put a boundary in place. I think that's been one of the most difficult things. But you do so in a very eloquent way. So that's quite nice to see. And you're also very, very strong, and everyone's got things going on. So I really appreciate it. That's really helped.
I really wasn't set up for that. But thank you. That's very kind. Okay. A final quick fire question. What's one thing you don't apologize for anymore?
I'm apologizing less for setting boundaries in place for just because I need it, and not creating and making up excuses and reasons why it might satisfy the other person. There's boundaries in place because I need it to be. And that's it.
Yeah, that. I love that.
Yeah, I'm learning.
It's all a journey.
Yeah.
Okay, I've got another one. Sorry.
Okay.
One more. Let me sneak another one in. What is something that you're proud of that no one ever sees? Because I think this is a really interesting question.
I'm proud of the way that no one, I mean, you've seen it and I know about it and my mum knows about it, but I feel like we've built this business 3 or 4 times. We have changed all of our system, like whilst running, we've changed all of our systems. We've created new systems. We've just changed the entire infrastructure of the business several times. And this last time, I mean, we just had our inspection and we passed with flying colours, no areas for improvement, which can be quite rare because they're very, very pernickety about things, about the standards, because they have to be. Yeah, I'm really proud of the way that we've been able to do that and handle it up until now.
What a beautiful way to end, because I feel like that comes back to that first point we said at the start of the episode about what we see on social media versus reality. And actually, you've hit the nail on the head with saying something might look like the same business, but underneath it, you might be on iteration number 5 or number 10 or number 25. And that's okay. Because I think, you know, we're all advocates of constantly evolving, and change and tweaking. And that was just such a lovely note to end on.
Thanks.
So where can people connect with you, your work, the business? People might be like wanting to drop you a message after this and be like, Kelly.
Is service-wise, we're a local business to Jersey. We have a website. We're on various social media platforms, Facebook, Instagram. We're attempting TikTok. And I'm on LinkedIn. You can contact me directly, Kelly Duckworth on LinkedIn.
Yeah, we'll link it below so that people can find you. And if you're in Jersey and you need home care support or your loved ones too, this is the place to go.
Thanks, I appreciate it.
Right. Thank you so much for being a guest on the Honest Business Podcast.
Thank you so much for having me.